I think they had a lot of freedom in Portland. That was a lot of white privilege in there. The only people that died in Portland was black people being shot during the protest, during the occupation. So again, we're mixing different things up. When the guy got shot in the federal building in Oakland, here in Oakland, uh, it- nobody was outraged. Nobody was outraged that people were shooting at the federal building here in Oakland.
Yes, they were. And I, as someone who lives, and you can roll your eyes. And so, if this is going to be an actual conversation and not a debate, where we're actually talking about facts, we need to be respectful. And so, we've all been respectful in listening to you, as even as you push back on our ideas as well, which we shouldn't even be doing. This should be a conversation, not a debate.
Well,
'Cause
look,
I don't know who we're
let me say this,
debating,
let me
but
say
as
this, let me
somebody
say
who
this,
lives
let
in
me say this.
Oakland,
I apologize for
as somebody,
rolling my eyes. I apologize for rolling my eye. I'm doing this for my phone and forgot that you can actually see that. So my apologies.
even, okay,
All right.
I don't know if,
What?
regardless of that.
Fresh killer.
What up, tribe? So we are here once again to talk about Donald Trump. There was recently the insurrection or the protest or the activity, the incident that happened at the Capitol building. And he refused to harshly criticize them or harshly chastise them. And there's a bunch of controversy happening in the country right now. His Twitter was recently banned permanently, and people are speaking of possibly impeaching him and getting him out for the remaining 11 or 12 days of his term. And so here we are, gathered together to talk about this incident. We have beautiful Black people from all around the country, from Northern Virginia all the way to Hawaii, and a lot of us here in the Bay Area. So with that being stated, let's get the thing cracking, man. The first thing, I just want to have a free-flowing conversation about it. And first thing I want to ask you guys is, what do you all should be done? What do you all think should be done regarding President Trump?
There's a couple other things. One, revoke his nuclear codes. That's one. And revoke his executive power, because he's just handing out pardons left and right, but not to the people who actually are innocent that's being actually killed and executed.
Okay. No, Lil Wayne hasn't gotten his pardon yet. That's unfortunate. Uh,
And also, just to clarify, his Facebook has been banned also until he's out of office.
oh, interesting.
Facebook has also banned him.
Okay.
And I think he had a second account. Twitter is also considering banning his kids.
Banning his children.
Not yet. They said they're considering it, just because when you ban somebody, it's not stopping their freedom of speech, because they can still talk. You're prohibiting the continuation of inciting of violence. That's what you're doing. And so now social media is finally starting to step up after, but this is what the funny part is. They never said anything when Black and brown individuals were getting killed. But as soon as somebody white dies, all of a sudden they got to ban them.
Can anybody refresh my memory in terms of what specifically he said to incite violence? I was working that day and didn't watch it.
It was mostly open-ended. He just said, like, we need to storm the Capitol building. And what it wasn't exactly what he said at that particular moment at that rally that morning. It was what was leading up to it, saying that it was stolen, and with all these lies, was fueling, and plus the news organizations were also feeling. So they were already hyped up. And then when he said, let's go storm the Capitol building, that's all where they headed to.
Huh? He also said he was going to march with them, which was wolf tickets.
Yes. And his son was saying something about fighting. That Giuliani said his little remark. I can't even think of what he said right now. But everything that they said was, let's go and do some damage.
That's hoorah.
Well,
And if
basically they were
anything,
trying to do a coup.
and if anything, this was pre-planned because a lot of the people who stormed in that are like on the mainstream media, on the headline news, like especially the guy with the bullhorns and stuff, they had pre-planned this beforehand because they had conversations before, they had made merchandise like shirts and things to wear. So they were already prepping before Trump even had a rally to do this on the day. It may not have necessarily been planned in the way that it went down on Wednesday, but there was definitely a plan. People had pipe bombs, people brought guns, ammo, all this stuff. So they knew what they were about to do. And Trump just fueled the fire even more on that day and lied to them and essentially was like, I'm going to be there with you. And he drove the other way with his bone spurs. So
I think I heard that he went to a bunker or something else in regards to that. And just a little FYI, it wasn't all just white people. There was a little speck of Black, Indian, and Latinos that was actually at the rally, but they kind of dispersed more when they started doing tear gas.
I just heard I don't know if you all know who Angela Stanton is, but Angela Stanton is a Black Republican woman who supports Trump. He got her out of prison and she was there. And she said that she was in the crowd and she was just on Boyce Watkins like earlier today. She said she was in the crowd and she said Trump said something and she heard a loud, the audience, there was a loud whoop, and she said she got her Black ASS out of there as soon as that happened. But I wanted to rewind it a little bit. People talking about him being suspended or banned. He's banned from Twitter. He is apparently he's suspended from Facebook right now.
Facebook until the end of his term.
Right. So Tarzine stated, I don't want to misquote you, but basically you said that is not censorship, right? You said
no,
censorship.
It's not censorship because censorship is like completely shutting down all his outlets of freedom of speech and is not really doing that. So he's banned on one platform, but he can always go to another and expel his propaganda.
So let me
and everything else.
Let me ask people this. What do you think about the move? What do people think about the move permanently banning him from Twitter? Good or bad?
Good.
I believe, in that one interview we were talking about with Angela Stanton, Boyce Watkins said you should question anybody who says, "Nah, don't listen to that person." And that's what the media is doing to us. Is basically saying, "Hey, we don't trust you to judge whomever they're banning. In this case, Trump. We don't trust you to judge him on your own. We want to even save anything that's coming from his mouth. We want to save you before it gets to you." And I think that's kind of like, we're adults. We can listen to it. What are you afraid of?
I think part of it is it's the consequences. Like if it leads to congressmen and women hiding under their desks, there was a dude in the crowd with zip ties, like they were going to take hostages. This is not just banning some weirdo who believes that the world is flat. This is not that. This is people's lives are endangered. These are like the lawmakers. So if you're going to endanger Mike Pence, and not that I'm not saying like I care about these people, not that I don't, whatever, but if you're going to be endangering the vice president and the speaker of the house's lives, yeah, we got to ban you. This is serious. They found pipe bombs.
So does the president have a lower First Amendment right than you do?
People don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah, this is about endangering people's lives. No, I don't have the right to endanger anyone's life.
And he has 70 some odd million people that are listening to what he's saying. And if he says, go storm the Capitol, and these people are willing to fly and risk their families and their means of supporting themselves to go and storm a Capitol building and do whatever damage they planned on doing, he has a lot of power. It's not just that.
I would like to go back to the YouTubes and to the videos to see him actually say it, but unfortunately I can't now because all those clips have been removed. So I can't even go back to see exactly what he said that incited violence.
It's available.
Every news source, even international news.
It's out there, bro.
I right before coming on here, I just tried to Google it to see like what the expert. A lot of the things have been filtered from YouTube. I'm not saying that to shoot shots. I'm just saying they've removed a lot of the stuff. And I'm saying that, listen, we should still be able to have be able to access some of the stuff that he said. I mean, what's the big fear? What's the big fear that we cannot, as adults, listen
Are
to
you
what he
surprised
says?
that they removed all of that? Is that a
Well,
shock?
well, first,
I'm surprised that they did it 8 days or 2 weeks before the presidency was over. I knew it was
well,
coming. I knew it was
first,
coming.
I could send you some links because it's available. And like I said, it's international news as well. So if you need that, I can send it to you, and even a non-American version. So I'll do that. But in terms of like, as we're talking about censorship, now social media platforms are private. Twitter is a private social media platform. So under their own personal terms, and I'm just talking about like guidelines and stuff, they have the right as an independent company to decipher what is a term of violation for their own policies for their community. And if they see fit that what Trump says, what somebody else random says about whatever type of rhetoric is going on, regardless of their stature, whether they're the president of the United States or a homeless person on the street, if they deem something as being invalid or is a violation of whatever their terms and their policies are, they have a right to terminate that. And again, that's not necessarily, yes, in a way you could argue that it's censorship, but like that's their own private guidelines. And so they have the right to do that as a privatized company. And however, if we really want to go there with the censorship thing, Trump is currently the president. So if he wanted to, he could go on TV right now and still continue to share videos of him saying whatever he so chose. So his personal, as a president, he does not have a complete total cutoff of communication to us as a nation. So he still has the ability and the capabilities to say what he wants just without that social media platform.
So I regarding this Trump being banned from Twitter, here is my concern. My concern is that he's banned from Twitter. People say he violated those terms. What happens with his millions of followers? Like, what do we think that the objective is going to be? I don't think that this makes the people that follow him less upset about what they're upset about. I think that it could possibly move his rhetoric, whether you agree with it or not, if he moves it to, let's say, Parler and starts a Parler account or on a far right wing site, then isn't that more dangerous?
They closed down Parler today.
I thought that he could, yeah.
They closed
So I'm
it.
gonna go ahead and just add my 2 cents.
Hold on, let me say this. Let me clarify really quickly. Okay, Parler, whatever it is, the righty, whatever group, whatever page that he goes to, the point that I'm trying to make is, if he's on Twitter, it's out in the open. They can edit it. They can say, they can fact check it. They can do all of these things. If it's on another site, then we'll never see it because he's speaking directly to his crowd. I think that this has the potential to backfire.
We'll see it.
Can I answer, Roger?
Yes, Joel. What's up?
Yes. Okay. So I've kind of been quiet, just trying to, survey a little bit. To answer your question directly, I think the personality of Trump will not allow him to do something in the dark. He gets fueled by the level of angst that he causes people. So he's not going to want to do something in the dark. To answer James's question, has he incited violence? When you're inciting something, sometimes it's not as direct as, I need you to go here at 2:45 and I need you to do this and I need you to do that and I need you to do this. He has incited violence because of the level of mistrust that he is sowing in the system itself. He is making his base feel as if they are powerless. And the only way that they can actually get something done is through violence. He has explicitly said that. And whether you agree with it or not, I think the rally he had before the last one was more so like, okay, let's reconvene in Washington, D.C. The last rally he had, though, he said, I'm going to go with you to the Capitol building. I mean, it was very instructional. So it wasn't even to a point of inciting. It was more so to a point of giving direction. I'm going to go with you, right? So these people who are 30,000 of people, they may have thought that Trump was in there with them somewhere. And they may have thought just because I don't see him doesn't mean he's not here, he's here. So I'm actually going to do my best to make sure that we take this capital back by force. And he said that. He said, you're not going to win your country back without force. What does force mean? Force may mean breaking a window. Force may mean going in. So
looting a target.
I'm sorry?
Force may mean looting a target.
Force means
it could mean that, right? It could mean that. It absolutely could. But in this instance, we're not talking about looting a target, right? If the conversation was about looting a target, then yeah, we could actually associate force with that too. But it's not, right? It's not. And not only is it not, you have to also look at the level of injustices that they think has happened. One is literally not legitimate. If it's been disproven, it's not legitimate. So you can't go against, you can't fight against a wrong that is actually it's been proven to be illegitimate. You know, that's another point.
Okay. It sounded like, Charles, you were making a connection from what happened at the Capitol to protests that happened earlier in the year around George Floyd. Or am I right in my assessment that you're making that connection?
Well, I was going to interject and say, is it safe to say that any public official who uses words to incite violence, should they be banned from the platforms the same way Donald Trump was? Because if that's the case, AOC should be banned, Maxine Waters should be banned, Kamala Harris should be banned, because they've incited violence as recently as the second half of last year.
What did they say?
Citation, please.
Hold on. When did they incite violence? In what instance did they incite violence?
We can start with Maxine Waters, like a few days or I won't say a few days, but right after the presidency, when she says, when you see somebody you don't agree with politically, I need you to surround them. I need you to push them back. I need you to make sure you make them feel uncomfortable. Remember that? That's what Maxine Waters said. Was she banned from Twitter and Facebook? Again, just because somebody says something doesn't mean that that's a threat. Like, we are thinking adults. And the lady that just spoke, saying that the crowd maybe thought that Donald Trump was in there with them. I mean, I guess you can think these things. That's a good point of view, but I don't. When you say I'm going to be with you in Washington D.C., doesn't mean I'm going to be the president of the United States. I don't take that to mean that the president of the United States is going to be marching in a crowd in Washington D.C. because they feel like they've been infringed upon.
That's you and your individual and your personal ideas, whereas other people may take that seriously. And so I think that's another thing where when we're talking about things like this, it's very easy to kind of apply your own type of ideologies to whatever you believe in and assume that other people are also in that same bill. But it's clear that, I mean, even back when the height of the coronavirus, Trump has said a lot of questionable things, especially with injecting yourself with bleach. Now, a sane person, one might say, oh, he just meant this, or I would never do that. But there have been people who have done it and who have hurt themselves or almost killed themselves. So in that regard, there are some people, even though there are things that could be said that we personally may not take to heart, there are over 75 other million people out there who do and who might and who have. So I think it's not so much of it's not a threat. It's only a threat when it's acted upon. And based off of the events that we saw on January 6th, I mean, I kind of think that proves more so to be a threat, especially because it was planned beforehand. So I think it's very easy to put yourself in it and to say, well, I would never do that, but other people would. So it's kind of like hard to step out of yourself. But in regards like this, where we're talking about an entire nation, and there are a plethora of people who may be on the same bill about something, but may take it in completely different directions. And so we need to be more cognizant of the people who are actively going to act on this, because some people feel that this is true within them. And that's the problematic part, the people who will be extreme. And if you really want to get there on both sides, there are extreme people who will do extreme things and extreme measures. And that's the lethal part. That's the scary part. And that's the part where we have to come together as a whole group and try to figure out how to limit that. I
appreciate it. Are you gonna share those links to the group with when he actually incited the violence?
Yes, I am. I'm finding them from various news sources. I'll have them for you in a minute.
And Charles, she also
hold on. We got Tarzine, and then we have Adjua. What's up, Tarzine? I see you with your hand up.
I want to piggyback on what Ms. Lewis said, and then speak to Charles. So in regards to the ban from Trump, Twitter has provided numerous chances for Trump, or has warned Trump multiple times versus Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters was never warned by Twitter or the platform. So therefore, that's why this person was not banned versus this other person was. Twitter has went, in the last 4 years of his presidency, Twitter has warned him and also censored him and also started fact checking him. And so that's why they finally said, this is the last straw, this is banned. As what Ms. Lewis said, they are private, just like Facebook is. He cannot be banned from like AP, like for Associated Press, just because it's more public and not private. So those are the difference. That's just like, I understand what Charles was saying, like, he's, you know, like, why is Trump banned versus like a Black Lives Matter is not banned, and isn't it considered like the same thing? And the difference is it's two different contexts. So that's what we have to also be aware of.
So
People have
someone,
been already censored enough, and that's why. But we don't cite like, hey, go do something bad to somebody else. So those are the differences. So I understand.
And I don't want to get into like, let's disappear Trump for a second. Let's make sure that let's say that he is some just unknown blackface, no pun intended, unknown, just darked out face.
And while you hold on, Charles, while you get that point together, I do want to announce that in the chat, they have responded to your request. Maja has responded to your request in the chat, and someone asked you to post your facts about Maxine Waters. I just wanted to let.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thank you. This is juicy. I love this.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Go ahead.
I kind of lost. What was my train of thought?
You were talking about if there would have been any Joe Blow, would they?
And my point is, there's some things that impact the Black community that goes against Facebook and tech guidelines, because it calls into question COVID and its impact on vaccines and stuff like that. We shouldn't be censored at a small level or a large level. It doesn't matter. I know they have the right to do it. It's a private company, so on and so forth. But we have brains of our own, and we can decide for ourselves. We don't think the same, but we shouldn't rely on some third-party tech company to be like, hey, you don't need to listen to this. We don't need you to use your own brain and see what this person is saying and what this person is not saying.
I mean, it sounds good, but how realistic is that?
That's
not the reality that we live in. Like, people are followers. So like, I don't really feel like that's I don't know which fallacy, but like, that's just not the reality that we live in. Like, clearly, by evidence of what happened at the Capitol, like, that's not the situation. Like, I understand maybe for you that's applicable, but it's not for like these women are saying for millions of Americans who buy into that rhetoric. So what do you say about that?
Maybe I misunderstood. What, could you ask the question again?
Okay, let me.
My bad. Did I jump the line? I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But Adjoa has her hand up. What's up, Adjoa?
So you have to look at his base. He has a very large base. He's not a Joe Blow. He has half the country listening to him. And not only that, the fact that they attacked such a prominent building. It wasn't just a Target. This is the level of reverence that you give to these buildings, right? For them to actually just bypass that and attack it in the way that they did, that is also, it carries so much more weight. So when you're thinking about it, you have to look at it in that regard too. And the fact that he has just a few weeks left means that he's more desperate, means that his base is more desperate, means that the violence could climb up even higher. And so I think that they had Twitter and all these other platforms felt that they had a responsibility to try to halt it and create some level of peace before the transition happened. So I think that's just what it is.
I think you had a good point about the Capitol and its significance in U.S. history and what this means to our institution. But I just find it disingenuous by a lot of people when nobody said anything, when a bunch of women protesters stormed the Capitol during the Brett Kavanaugh.
Did they break windows?
They would have, but guess
But
what?
they didn't.
Please let them in.
You know that they would have for a fact?
Hold on,
Did,
hold on.
did they did
hold
they
on,
replace
hold on,
the
hold on,
flag?
I'm just
They
saying they stormed the
replaced
Capitol.
the
Where was
flag.
the
They
outrage? Where was the
literally,
outrage? They stormed
but
the
Charles,
Capitol.
Did they
Where was the
climb
they
the
outrage?
wall?
replaced the flag. They replaced the flag of the United States of America on a federal building. That is not something that you take lightly. They literally implanted a new flag in the place of the United States of America's flag. It is not on the same level. They didn't break buildings. They didn't break windows. So if they did, then we can talk about apples to apples. That's
They
not
weren't
apples to
scaling
apples.
walls either. They weren't outside climbing up the walls. They weren't taking stuff and
nobody died.
So hold on.
Nobody died.
Hold on. Let me.
Thousands.
Yeah, Janine, go ahead, Janine. You had your hand up. What's up?
Well, just 5 people that might have done something compared to thousands of people who did. I'm not really understanding the comparison there.
Well, you said 5 people?
Didn't you say 5?
No. It was actual. It wasn't as many people. I mean, I don't really know exactly how many people stormed the Capitol, quote unquote, but it definitely wasn't as many people as the hundreds of thousands of people that were there. But they stormed the Capitol for Brett Kavanaugh, and they prevented the Capitol doors from being closed so they can have the hearing on it. We didn't have any type of outrage. It was just like, oh, whatever.
But we're not talking about protests. Because protests that's what people were saying. They were saying that these people had the right to lawfully protest. They had the right to go up there and with their signs and do whatever in terms of protests. But this went beyond protest. They were ready to, they were going to take hostages. There were bombs. People had guns. People like broke into Nancy Pelosi's office and put their feet on the table. And
Birth of a nation.
It was mayhem and just run amok. And this is basically to take over the nation. And people died, like 5 people died, including a police officer, for all these people who are like, Blue Lives Matter or whatever that means. And so, yeah.
Yeah, he died in a horrible way. They beat him to death with a fire extinguisher.
And there's a video of a guy being crushed inside in between 2 doors by the same people who are supposed to claim that they. So I mean, I get if that is some affiliation that you have, that's great. But I think it kind of becomes hard to justify that behavior, even if it wasn't a Republican, even if it was a liberal event. It's very hard to justify any kind of behavior where you are hurting other people or killing other people in that way, especially Capitol Police, federal buildings, and federal workers that work there. I mean, if on a regular given day, on a regular schmancy pantsy Tuesday morning, if a normal group of people went up there and did what they did, everyone would be calling for blood. So why is there a debate as to why they did and justification? I don't quite understand, because regardless of what they stand for, what they did was just wrong. If they stood for the other side, that's wrong. People got shot, people got killed, people were getting crushed. They were taunting the officers in a way that was more, it went beyond just free speech. It was literally rhetoric of saying, like, we are going to reinstate, like basically take over. And so I think it's very hard to kind of debate that when you're seeing it, when there are videos, personal videos, media videos, there are all type of things that are kind of concurring this evidence. So the justification for it is hard for me personally to kind of deny it or to kind of debate it in any way. Wrong is wrong. So we're going to call it what it is.
And we don't talk about the reason they were there either. I mean, you go on a march so that you can stop the Electoral College vote so that President Trump can stay in office. I mean, that's the reason they went to do all that. I mean,
right.
Do you agree with that, Charles?
Here's what it is. You have to remember 75 million people voted for Donald Trump. 75 million, whether you agree with it or not. 75 million. 80 million people voted for Biden. That's the most votes for someone who didn't go out and campaign. That's more votes than Barack Obama himself got in 2008. So there are a lot of things that happen in specifically 7 states. Obviously, California, New York, all the blue is blue and red is red. But specifically in 7 states, what those 75 million people are angered by, and those people that were at Capitol Hill are angered by, is in those 7 states, on the day of the election, all of a sudden around midnight, all those states, they shut it down. They shut down counting the votes, so on and so forth. And then the next, and this is, by the way,
Charles, that's not true.
They didn't. I'm confused.
It's not
What?
true.
Hold on.
And the Trump administration has brought lawsuits forward, and they've all been thrown out.
they've been thrown out. They've been thrown out. Somebody also said that it's been disproven. Nothing has been disproven at all. They just refuse to accept. They refuse to take up those lawsuits. So nothing.
Who is the they? Can you start talking in pronouns? Who is the they?
All those lawsuits. Well, let's start with the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Right.
So
remember the 7 states, or Texas sued Pennsylvania, and they refused to take it. There's been nothing. There's been nothing.
The Supreme Court refuses to take up cases for a reason when they don't feel like there's any legitimate standing. For one, they don't take everything that's presented to them.
I didn't say
Well,
they
here's
did.
my thing. I don't think we need, I think, Charles, the thing about it is that we're not trying to discredit the fact that you feel how you feel. Every 4 years,
How do
they're
I feel?
part of the population. They're part of the population that feels like, okay, this didn't go our way. And for whatever reason, there's a reason is legitimate to us, even if it's not legitimate to the other side. So I'm not going to discredit that. But the fact is that we don't go out and then attack federal buildings. I think that's where there's a level of like discretion that is just not there, right?
Well,
4 years ago, I was livid, right? 4 years ago, I was hurt. And it happens. And there've been other years where other people would be hurt. So it's not to say that what you're feeling or what his base is feeling is invalid. It's just how you're acting upon it. When it becomes dangerous, right? When it gets to the point that you're actually attacking a federal building, then we have to take a step back and realize this is beyond you thinking you've been wronged. This is at a place of you actually putting people's lives in danger, and not just regular people, but the people who are actually standing for, the people of the United States. You senators, you can't do that.
Thank you, Adoja. That's a beautiful name, by the way.
Ajwa.
I'm sorry, Ajwa. Oh, shoot. Okay, cool. Thank you. I was gonna say that, again, this is not apples to apples, but when it comes to federal buildings and so on and so forth, remember, there have been federal buildings in Portland. There have been federal buildings in Oakland, right? They've been attacked. And again, I see this outrage, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Roger, you mentioned Birth of a Nation. Hey, listen, this nation didn't come to be this way just based off of some nice little, waves of water hitting our toes. There was a lot of violence in our history.
I was talking about the Birth of a Nation film, the black and white movie in which they depicted these Black people going into the White House and then they kicked their feet up like they did in that. So I just wanted to clarify that, but go ahead.
All I'm saying is the outrage that we see now. I just posted the thing about Maxine Waters. I can post the quotes on Kamala Harris. I can post the quotes on AOC. What I'm saying is it's a little bit disingenuous, not you, but it's a little disingenuous, the outrage that I'm seeing now, where we just came off of a season of 6 months of protests, of property destruction, regardless of the point. Right? There was no defense for those things. There was no outrage for those things. We just stayed quiet. And then all of a sudden, some people, they did some things illegal. They should be arrested for those things. But now it's, oh, this is ridiculous. Federal buildings, so on and so forth. So I just want to point out that there's a dichotomy that kind of,
Roger,
go ahead.
I need to.
Okay. Hold on, Janine. Hold on, Janine, because Tarzine's hand has been up for a very long time. I want to get down to Tarzine, but before that, I do want to make mention that Charles did post something in the chat, a YouTube video from Maxine Waters that says, tell them that they are not welcome. So that link was posted in the chat just to keep people up to speed on the beef in the chat.
That's not the famous thing, push them.
And also Maija also posted several links too. I should say that as well. Maija posted several links in her defense as well.
AOC and Kamala is coming up. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Tarzine, yes. And then Janine after Tarzine.
Okay, so I'm just trying to bring it back to what we initially talked about in regards to the conversation. I think Rhonda also, asked, like, why was they there? Whether they were Republican or Democrat, here's the facts, what they were trying to do, what the group was trying to do. They were trying to not certify the popular vote, which is how Biden won. They were trying to bring it back to the Senate, so the Senate would, because they were the majority at the time, then the Senate, how that comes in, if they do not certify the vote, then the popular vote, excuse me, then they would have to go, I think it goes back to not the House, but the Senate. And the Senate can use the electoral vote to put in, it comes into place, and this should never be, I don't even know why this clause is in here, that they can choose, I think a secondary, like, somebody correct me if I'm wrong about the language of it. They can choose a temporary president until they either, one, have a new election, or two, that person comes into, the next person comes into power, or three, there's actually a long clause about it. I read it months ago when I posted before, when we had this discussion before, when Roger had the discussion about the voting. I forgot what it was about, but I did post what could happen, the coup that could happen, and that's what they were trying to do. So whether they were on one side or the other, here's the simple fact is they were trying to dismantle our democratic system. That's what it comes down to. So whether you're on either side, it doesn't matter, like the vote has been done, it's been certified. I mean, we can debate this all day until the cows come home, but the simple fact is that it was certified by each state. So there's no more debating about that. Courts dismantled it, it was certified, let's move on. Then what they were trying to do was issue a coup and dismantle our system, our democratic system. That's what we need to be more worried about, because that is our future, that is our kids' future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for sure. Janine.
I would just like to say that I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. And a lot of times I had a problem with Joe Biden's win. And I'll just say for the record, people gonna be mad at me. maybe I shouldn't say that, but this is the first time I never voted for a president, because I really couldn't do it. And plus I live in California, so the stakes weren't that high anyway. But this is the first time I was just like, that level of corruption to where those were the choices in terms of the lesser of two evils. I was like, y'all got me to do that, voting for Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. I'm not doing that again. And that's a whole nother issue, because how Biden got in there, and I felt like that was all corrupt, blah, blah, blah. Main thing is, one of the things that I said when they got in, and all the people like around Oakland, when people were like honking their horns and like so excited, because I was like, really? Like, people acting like they just won the lottery. And I'm like, it's the president. That's not the same thing. This is not liberation. And I just wanted to just basically say that, so you can kind of get a baseline of my politics, or I guess maybe I'm on the left. I might be far left, considering that. Just so when I'm defending this, so you don't think that I'm not a Democrat. I'm just okay. So I will finish. When my brother said that there was not outrage, my question to him is, the protesters that were protesting against or the Black Lives Matter protests, they were tear gassed. They were shot with rubber bullets. I'm not clear as to where there was no outrage. That was one. The president said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. People were labeled Black identity extremists. People were surveilled. They were in Portland, like taking people off the street like it was the Gestapo or something. Like, it got to levels of psychosis as to what they were doing to peaceful protesters. And so there was a lot of outrage, and there was a lot of consequences for people who were protesting against police brutality. And people saw these rioters go up in the Capitol, and there was no police presence. Hardly no one got arrested. So when you're saying that there wasn't this outrage, I'm not clear on what you mean, because there was definitely outrage when Black Lives Matter protesters were in the street, and they suffered intense consequences immediately from their protests.
I would have to dis
Rubber bullet.
I would have to push back on that. I mean, I guess this is a intellectual debate on like what happened, but I think what I'm afraid is happening is we're kind of mixing up events. I specifically mentioned Portland and Oakland, and you know, this is if you remember, speaking of Portland, that's where, you know, they had a siege on Portland for months and months and months and months, and the mayor and the governor refused to have federal help. That was I mean, the federal building, they set up CHOP. I think they had a lot of freedom in Portland. That was a lot of white privilege in there. The only people that died in Portland was Black people being shot during the protest, during the occupation. Again, we're mixing different things up. When the guy got shot in the federal building in Oakland, here in Oakland, nobody was outraged. Nobody was outraged that people were shooting at the federal building here in Oakland.
Yes, they were. And I, as someone who lives, and you can roll your eyes. And so if this is going to be an actual conversation and not a debate, where we're actually talking about facts, we need to be respectful. And so we've all been respectful in listening to you, even as you push back on our ideas as well, which we shouldn't even be doing. This should be a conversation, not a debate.
Well, look,
I don't know who we're debating, but as somebody who lives in Oakland,
I apologize for
somebody,
rolling my eyes. I apologize for rolling my eye. I'm doing this from my phone and forgot that you can actually see that. So my apologies.
Okay. I don't know if, regardless of that, I live right next to Oakland. I have friends that live in Oakland. I drive through Oakland all the time. I have family that also lives in Oakland. I was around when the riots were happening. I was around during the aftermath. I was around when that police officer got shot. And there was a lot of outrage on that. I don't know if you watch the news here, but our local news, KTVU Channel 2, okay, they were talking about it a lot. So was CBS, so were a lot of other news stations, and everyone was outraged about that. That's a police officer, and he was very proliferate in this community, in this area, in the Oakland area. So that was really mentioned, and people were calling for peace even with the violence that was going on during those protests. A lot of people, even in the Black Lives Matter movement, were also calling for peace as well. So yes, there are going to be violent insurgencies and stuff in all of these groups, no matter what you're protesting for. That it's going to happen, and they're called out on both sides. Now, to say that it was never talked about, that's just a fallacy, because it was. And so if you would also like those news reportings, I can also find those for you too, because again, that's public record as well. So those things were talked about, and those things are discussed in the community, and they're also discussed within the Black Lives Matter movement themselves, and with the protesters, with locations here, with other locations. We're not all for violence. Not all groups are for violence. So to just kind of like try to lump everyone into that group and to say that, oh, these areas did it too, and they weren't any consequences. There are consequences all around. You do bad, there are consequences. So there shouldn't be any type of uncertainty around that, because there is proof about it, and there have been conversations about it, and there have been consequences served to the people who have done wrong.
Got you.
Okay, for sure. Let me also say this. What I want to ask people, we talked about Twitter and all of that. Now the impeachment is on the table. What do people think about getting him out of the paint, basically, for the remainder of his presidency? How do people feel about that?
I think
it's political. I think it's political. I think they're just trying to prevent him from running for president again in 2024. It's all political.
Okay, Rhonda.
It sounds like he got your vote.
Okay, so
what's up, Rhonda? Hold on. Rhonda was going to say something. Hold on. Rhonda was going to say something.
I think he should be impeached. I don't think he even should be president. I don't know how he got to be president. I don't know what happened. But if he gets impeached, then no, he can't run again. He loses that salary. He loses. I don't know if it's a good thing for him to lose it's not security. Who are those people, the Secret Service that follow him? Because I think they need to follow him.
No, they follow them after the presidency. I think it's up to 10 years.
What do people think about the move specifically? Good move or bad? What do people think?
I think it's a good move.
Okay.
Well, given that COVID has been decimating our community for the last year essentially, I think that's been dominating the news cycle for a long time, and I think that we have other things to do. I think that we have other pressing things. That's part of the reason why he was quote unquote voted into office. Biden was voted into office is because America didn't feel like Donald Trump was running the COVID response. At least in one instance, they weren't running the COVID response properly. I think COVID.
Do you feel that he was running it properly?
Hold on. Let's not go there. Charles feels like it's a distraction. Charles feels like it's a bad idea to impeach the president. Rhonda feels like it's a good idea. I want to hear from some other people. What do you think about the play to impeach the president?
It's absolutely essential from not just this instance, but from a historical standpoint. I mean, even prior to the events at the Capitol, but in light of those, I mean, I think many historians look back at the fact that, Nixon, I mean, it needs to happen. There needs to be repercussions to this. We can't look back on a history of what happened at the Capitol this week and have Trump, run down the remainder of his term without there being a clear signal that this is not okay.
Okay. Essential. Nicole says it's essential. Okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts and opinions on the play to remove the president?
I just don't think that shit is realistic. Like, that shit's not gonna happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. It's what, 14 days? Like, as good as it sounds on paper,
in the new Senate, though.
It's not gonna happen. What'd you say?
It may be picked up in the new Senate. And they start in this Congress and then be picked up in the new Senate. Like the Senate will vote on it with the new makeup.
But he's white, and his white privilege will not allow him, whether Democrat or whatever side you subscribe to impeach him. Like, come on now. Like, let's be real. I think the bigger issue as Black folks is that at what point do we realize that the system that we've been indoctrinated into and the system that we buy into is sick? It's disease. Like, why do we continue to subscribe to the lesser of two evil sort of dichotomy that is Republican and Democrat? Like, ain't neither side doing shit for Black folks. So it's almost like, what do they say? Like, if you keep doing something over and over and expect a different result, like you're insane or you're crazy. Like, come on now. Like, are you really surprised that they were taking selfies? Like, how many, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, what? And I'm not even mad at Charles. Like, I shouldn't say that. I don't know how you feel, but I would surmise or infer based off what you've shared, you're caping for the right, not even necessarily Trump. It might be whatever puppet head is in there. Like, you're entitled to that opinion, bro, and that's cool because I just think.
Oh no! Oh, you muted yourself, bro. You turned your mic off. Mic check.
My bad. I was gonna say, I'm sending a quote from 3 Stacks in the link. Like, we need you too, bro. You know what I'm saying? As long as you happy, then I'm happy. You remember that from that AT alien?
I got you. Yep.
Yeah, brother, we need you too. So, like, I'm not even mad. Like, I understand the situation. The bigger picture is like, at what point as Black folks do we stop subscribing to this sort of sick, diseased ideology that is American politics, as if it does anything to benefit us?
Okay. So to be clear, Ross, you just like, it's not gonna happen. You're not even.
It ain't gonna happen. They're not gonna prosecute. Man, people that were looting at Best Buy or whatever the case may be, however you may feel about it, they went and pulled the footage. Mm-hmm. You saw the chick, for lack of a better term. It's not what I really want to say, but I know this is gonna go on YouTube. The Caucasian woman who had the onion in her shit, bro. I know you've seen that shit.
Wait, what? Onion? What are you talking about?
But the chick who was like saying where she lived, and she's like crying, like, I tried to storm the building.
Oh, right.
Yeah. She had an onion in her freaking towel.
Right. And what does that mean? Like, she had an onion. What does that mean?
That she was faking it, bro. She was faking that she had been sprayed with tear gas.
Oh, okay.
She was selling wolf tickets, bro. She was woofing heavy. You feel me? Like,
okay.
So my whole point is that sort of before. What'd you say?
Hold on.
Bring it back to what we were talking about before. Like, Janine had a good point in regards to that. Right now, there is Republican and Democrat, when I think there should be 4 fractions.
Wait, hold on, guys, because actually we were focusing on this impeachment, good or bad type thing.
Oh, I agree with Nicole.
Okay, you agree with Nicole. Janine had her hand up. What's up, Janine? What do you think about the impeachment?
Yeah, I think it's good. I heard some analysis that it would only take a small number of Republicans to be down with it. I think it was like, I'm trying to remember the names. Like
67 votes, and right now they have 50 in the Democrats. So Republicans would need 17
Okay, go
in the
ahead.
Senate.
There's only 4 Republicans that said they would impeach the representatives.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Janine.
Okay, whether it's possible or not, I don't know. I think that it should just be done on GP. Whether it happens or not is not the point. Like, there have to be some type of moves towards consequences, so that you know that this cannot happen again, and it's not like they're just going to sit and be idle and stand by. And plus, he's a narcissist, and you don't want to underestimate that. Like, you have to take some type of moves, because things could possibly get worse. So I feel like being proactive and doing something is the right thing to do.
All right. Anyone? Okay, yes, Angela.
So is it a good move? Yes, I think it is a good move.
Okay.
Is it going to happen? I don't think it will. But I think just for the reasons that have been listed here, the fact that he can't run again, I think that is a good move, because clearly he is absolutely unfit to be president, and he just cannot have another chance of running again. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that people are going to risk losing his base, like the people that will actually vote them back in. They're not going to risk it. So I don't think it's going to, 17 Republicans, I don't think it's going to happen.
All right.
I agree with you.
Anyone else? Anyone
What
else?
you gonna do if he does if he runs in 2024? You gonna storm the Capitol?
Hey, look, I was right here in Oakland, California, man. Look, it's not about Donald Trump to me. It's about the mindsets that impact the Black community, and the Democrats have run Oakland, California since I was a kid, and really just expect our vote with nothing in response. So I was actually going to agree with you. It's greater than a two-party system, but I mean, I walk around Oakland, California, and I just see a bunch of, from my vantage point, I just see a bunch of people who are jaded and are just consistently voting Democrat and not expecting anything in returns. When we just see our neighborhoods, the non-Black neighborhoods, the ones that have been gentrified, the school district is worse than it's been when I was a kid. Nothing is changing. Everything is regressing in our community, but yet we still vote Democrat over and over and over again.
Okay. But Charles, you see jaded, I see survival. They're just trying to survive, because if they're to go on the other side, then it really literally sometimes means death. So it's literally survival. The people that you say you see that are jaded. Mm-hmm. So I do agree that it shouldn't be a two-party system. I don't consider myself a Democrat, but I do believe that when you look at it, we've been talking about the lesser of two evils, and that literally is where it stops. So maybe we can start looking at, okay, let's think about not even 2024. Let's think further than that, because if we want to establish a solid third party, it's not going to take 4 years. It's not going to take 8. It may take 12. It may take longer than that. But we can start organizing now, and we can start galvanizing now, so that we can actually have something that is solid for us to vote on in, I don't know, 12 years from now. Because it's not going to happen in 4 years. It's not.
We've been hearing that. We've been hearing that.
Hold on, Charles, because I'm gonna wind this thing on down. I appreciate everyone for coming. I'm going to wind it down, but I still want you on the floor, because my question for you, Charles, is that you said all those things about Democrat and voting Democrat, and them essentially letting Oakland down, or letting the Black community down. What convinces you that the Republican Party will do better?
That's a great question. And it's not necessarily that I think the Republican Party will do better. It is the fact that you have to start commanding that the people that we give our votes to start respecting us and start paying us back immediately once we vote them into office. So when you are constantly voting a certain type of way, and one side sees that they have your vote in the pocket, they move on. They don't really care about you. And the way you get them to care about you is you stop voting for them.
You really think?
Okay. And you vote for the other party that actually doesn't care about you either. So both of them don't care about you.
So I have, no, it's all good. It's all good. I appreciate it. I have one final question before I get into the final question. Janine's had her head up for a little minute. What's up, Janine?
Well, I think that we also need to have a deeper conversation about white supremacy and about capitalism,
Okay.
and about how all of these things intersect and how that all impacts us as well. Because when we also are talking about what happened at the Capitol, that was about white supremacy. You could say it's about Republicans versus Democrats. That was like white people mad that Black people in Georgia, basically, and Arizona, like a lot of that was based on Black and brown votes that flipped those areas. Those areas were voter suppressed, traditionally speaking, and we know that in Georgia, Stacey Abrams, among a lot of other people, mobilized to get the Black vote and flip those areas. And that was like the last stand of the angry white man, which is just like, we're not having like Black people vote and change the system. I mean, that's a deeper issue. I'm just saying that needs to be another discussion, but I'm just saying that white supremacy needs to be talked about, and capitalism, and where we fit and how we can survive in that system, and what we need to do to thrive in that system. Is that possible? I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
Okay, well, final question, guys, and that is, so 50% of the 50% of the country is still rocking with Trump. They're rocking with him heavy. And I want to know what people think about the future of this nation, where 50% of the people are willing to storm the Capitol and are discontent, and they look at this as an insurrection of many more to come. And I want to know, what do people think about the general outlook of this country? Do people have hope, for our collective future as a nation, and what does that future look like?
I'm getting a passport in another African country.
Another African country.
Yes, another one.
I think that what Trump did was mobilize the white supremacy. And so I think that it's going to this is only the tip of the iceberg. I think now that they're more mobilized, because first they were fragmented, now they're super mobile. They're mobilized, and now since Trump is going to be taken out of office, which is considered their president, then it's going to get a lot worse. We're going to see a little bit more violence, probably in the next year, until they that's just how history is. It's like when one person gets voted out of office, then they get so mad, then they try to get another person in. It's like a revolving wheel that keeps on going. I was like, how do we actually stop this? We need to, like Janine said, talk about capitalism, and then talk about like mobilizing and maybe breaking up the two parties, because there's radicalism on both sides. So I like both sides are not great. So there's good people on one side, there's bad people on another. But I think that we need to really look at the system, because the system was not designed for us. It wasn't designed for us. It wasn't designed in any way to benefit us. So now we need to start thinking about a redesign. We keep on going back to how do we fix the system? Let's talk about a redesign of that system.
I think the future will be brighter, honestly, if we try our best to kind of draw in and bring in those views that don't necessarily comport with our own, but try and just see that you mentioned 50% of the country. That's a big number. And I think that if both sides, and this is not just me pointing fingers at one side, I'm saying both sides have to practice looking from the other person's vantage point, because it's until you do that solutions, I don't think you'll ever see eye to eye with these people. And that's the problem that we're seeing right now, is people are just not seeing eye to eye. And that's fine, just as long as you understand where they're coming from and move on. But right now, everybody is stuck in their way, and that their view is their view, and that's it. And I think that's just asking for it.
I just want to clarify, not everybody's stuck in their way. Just FYI, because I have a background in human computer interaction and also psychology. So I always look at two sides of the coin. I try to look at other people's perspective, and I try to get people to come to my perspective. What I do is I go to there in order for them to see my here. And that's how you get things done.
Okay. Sure. Now let me hear some other perspectives. Before we do, I do want to read a quote from Nicole in the chat, and it says the Republican Party has only been able to win for the past many years due to increasing levels of voter suppression motivated by fear of a Black and brown country. It is popping in the chat. Does anyone else want to respond to the question regarding the future of this nation?
Future is going to continue to be divided. I don't see any kind of merging of minds where there's going to be a middle ground. I think it's going to continue to be divided. Even if you look at the videos, the people who went to the Capitol, some of them took big hits. So some of that mentality is going to rub onto the younger generation, and it's going to continue to be divided. It probably might stabilize for the next 3 years, but as it gets closer to election, it's going to pick back up where the other side, and I'm speaking for the people who are following Trump, they may have, regrouped, and who knows who they're going to want to vote in 4 years. So I think it's uncertain, and I think it's going to continue to be divided.
Okay, for sure. Anyone else on that? Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate everyone for participating in.
You're breaking up really bad.
Please subscribe.
Hey, Roger, you want to say that again? You broke up, so we didn't hear anything you said.
Take two. I just paid my bill too. Okay.
They got you, Roger. They got you.
I want to thank everyone for participating in the chat. Please don't forget to subscribe to the tribe on YouTube, Awkward Black Tribe. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a comment. Appreciate you guys. That's another one, man. Peace, tribe. Peace.